If we looked at all cancers at La Quinta Middle School, it came up to 18 total by 2006. That's the red line. The blue line is what would be expected. So blue is the expected, the red is what they actually had. So 3 times the expected cancer rates is what was actually observed at this school in overall cancers. And as we'll see in a minute, the cancer rates correlated strongly with dirty electricity levels. If we looked at a few of the cancers specifically, melanoma, it's 11 times the expected value of cancer rate. So the red is what they actually got, the blue is what would be expected. And exposure to sun was ruled out. For other cancers, and he has graphs for all of them, but I didn't think it was necessary to put up all the graphs. Thyroid cancer is 13 times above what would be expected. Uterine cancer 9 times, breast cancer 1.3-fold. You know, all these other cases of cancers as well. And as I mentioned earlier, if you download my PowerPoint, you'll have all these references to look at them yourselves. I know there's medical doctors in the room, all sorts of scientists, so you can download these studies, look at them yourselves, and see if you come to the same conclusion and concern I do. This is a listing of all the rooms at La Quinta Middle School, and the ones with the red block, you can't read them, but those are the rooms that had dirty electricity levels beyond 2,000, which is over the limit. 25% of the rooms at the school which were above the limit of this meter, which was really significant. Here's the next question. When I was giving this presentation at Marcia School, one of the boys said, well, that's interesting. Okay, I'll accept the fact that the cancer rates at the school were very high, but how do we know it was due to dirty electricity? How do we know it isn't due to some toxin in the ground that no one's found yet, or something emitted in the walls or whatever? This is the interesting thing. At that school, one of the teachers who was helping with the study, one of the teachers had kept a list of all the room assignments of the teachers since 1990. Then Sam Milham took that list of which teachers were in which rooms. He then compared that to the dirty electricity in the different rooms and found a correlation that the rooms at high levels of dirty electricity were the rooms that the teachers had higher probability of getting cancer, higher cancer rates. So this correlation between the dirty electricity, looking room by room by room, to the cancers of the teachers room by room by room. So using a list of teacher room assignments from 1990 with GS readings for each room, researchers found a correlation between the total exposure to dirty electricity and cancer rates. The details follow. And it's interesting to note that the 60 cycles per second electromagnetic radiation showed no correlation. Because some people are very concerned about it. They buy these electromagnetic field meters. They go and test the electromagnetism coming out from all their different wires. And he did that, and he compared to cancer rates, and there wasn't any correlation. The correlation was due to the dirty electricity, not to the regular 60 cycle per second radiation. So here's the results. Is dirty electricity a risk for cancer at La Quinta Middle School? The teacher's been in a room with over 2,000 GS units. For 1 year, there's a 5-fold increase incidence of cancer above expected. If they've been in a 2,000 room and employed at the school for over 10 years, it's 7-fold increase incidence of cancer above expected. So it's a very significant result. And if they've never been to that 1,000 room, but have just been employed at that school at all for at least a year, it's at least 1.8-fold increased cancer rate. Now, this shows on the bottom axis the total exposure. They multiply the GS reading times the number of years at the school. As you go to the right, the amount of exposure goes up and the incidence of cancer goes up. So again, there's a correlation between the exposure and the cancer rates. Were students also affected? So far, we've just looked at teachers. The increased risk of cancer for students could not be determined as researchers could not obtain health records of students after they left the school. They tried, but they couldn't get them. So the next point on the bottom is, what is the mechanism? And this is interesting before we move into the more positive solutions. While cancer effects were only seen after years of exposure, they generally build up over years, we're going to look at some other studies in a slide or two, which report that diabetes effects can be seen immediately. So a person who has problems with blood sugar, they walk into a room with dirty electricity, within 20 minutes, they measured that the blood glucose level goes up. And if they go into a room with low levels of dirty electricity, blood sugar levels go down. And low, they say, should be below 30. They've noticed in these studies, if it's below 30, then they walk into the room, they can immediately feel the relaxation, their blood sugar levels go down. So this might help explain or give some direction for researchers wanting to understand the mechanism of cancer, of diabetes, and how electromagnetism affects the physiology. This is one of the last slides. To me, it was one of the reasons I came to talk about this. This is acknowledgement that these are the teachers who lost their lives due to cancer. There's a study in progress at Vista Del Monte Elementary School. One of the students at Marshy School said, Mr. Wolfson, have they replicated the La Quinta Middle School study? And I explained, an epidemiological study in a population you can't really replicate, in the sense you can't invite a whole town of people and give them all cancer and see what happens. If some situation comes up, you study it. So here we've got another situation. There was a teacher at that school, at Vista Del Monte Elementary School, who said, our school has a reputation of high cancer rates among teachers, so could you look at our school too? He went in, he found very high dirty electricity levels, and he's in the middle of studying that school. One thing about this school, it has a cell phone tower right beside it. And the cell phone tower actually creates dirty electricity through all the complex electronics that happen inside the cell phone tower. It not only radiates in the air, it creates ground currents that create dirty electricity. And the rooms closest to the cell phone tower had the highest dirty electricity levels. He's in the middle of studying that school. So now we'll look at some more health research, this time with solutions. So it's a little more uplifting. But first, people asked us, especially if we have any engineers in the audience, what is a GS unit? And this is a unit that was created by Martin Graham and Dave Zetzer because no one had ever thought of looking at dirty electricity and quantifying it. Most simply, the more jagged the voltage, the greater the number of GS units and the greater potential for harm. Mathematically, we can talk about the GS reading as the average size of the rate of change of the voltage. And there's also an electrical engineering definition. If you're an electrical engineer, maybe you can just download this and read that, because I don't want to go into that here and bore everyone half to death. So now we'll look at a couple homes. So on the left there is 2 homes, and the blue, like on the top left corner, that slide, the blue is the total voltage, the normal voltage, and the red is the dirty electricity in the line, and there's no filter used. On the bottom is just another home. Again, the red is the dirty electricity, and there's high-frequency harmonics. On the one on the top, there's about 16 kilohertz is a peak dirty electricity. On the bottom, it's 12 kilohertz. So now if I go to next, we'll see what happens if we apply a filter. So when we apply a filter, the frequency goes down by about a factor of 10, and also the magnitude goes down. So the total dirty electricity goes down. How do dirty electricity filters work? They provide an easy, direct path for high-frequency signals to travel directly back rather than traveling through your house. So if I had a dirty electricity filter and I put it into the power strip, then when the dirty electricity comes out of the computer and goes back there, it just goes through the dirty electricity filter and just is neutralized, rather than going all around your house or all around the building. Then it's neutralized right on the spot. And if you had one and you knew your computer was the source of it, you want to plug it in as close as possible to the computer. So the dirty electricity is harmlessly dissipated, neutralized, leaving the line free. So here's another study. This is a study showing improvements in all types of diabetes. This is one case study. There's many, But this shows as the dirty electricity goes up along the bottom to the right, the plasma glucose levels also go up. And this is the fellow who says he just walks into a room and he can tell the dirty electricity is down to a comfortable level and his blood glucose goes down. Scientists recommend GS levels, dirty electricity levels, to be less than 30 for maximum noticeable benefits. GS stands for Graham-Stetzer because they're the two inventors. Other research and case studies, many of these are from Magna Havas, who's at Trent University, professor. Improved asthma, we'll look at that slide in a moment. Improved multiple sclerosis. Case study of a lady, if she goes into a room, if the GS levels are low enough, she can walk around without having to hold on to the wall. This may sound a little bit hard to believe, but just think of this high-frequency oscillations that are coming into the body and shaking everything. If you're sensitive, if you're electromagnetically sensitive, you can see how that could interfere with the body's ability to coordinate and move. If you take away that shaking motion, the person should have more stability. That's how I understand it. Also reduced headaches, improved teacher well-being. There's several animal studies which show that if there's dirty electricity in the ground, traveling through the ground, cows give less milk because the electricity is sort of aggravating them. In one of those case reports, when one Midwest school was filtered, a dairy farmer a quarter of a mile away reported his cows gave 10 pounds more milk a day. The cows responded to dirty electricity and ground currents. This is a study in Melrose Medora School, Wisconsin. Of the 37 students with asthma who'd been using inhalers regularly prior to the installation of the filters, only 3 of them used an inhaler after the filters were installed, and that was only after exercise-induced asthma. Asthma also seems to very quickly influenced by dirty electricity or improvements by removing it. So there's other school studies. This is a study in Willow Wood School in Toronto where the teachers were less frustrated, less irritable, better able to focus, better health. In Minnesota, in 3 schools, improved power quality, enhanced teacher well-being, and improved student behavior. And this is interesting. In Europe, they're more concerned. A lot of the research on high frequency and its effects on the physiology was done in research in Russia. They're more aware of it. So the health department of the Republic of Kazakhstan actually has regulations that any reading above 50 on these dirty electricity meters is unacceptable. So these meters are being sold all over the world. In Kazakhstan, they're officially recognized as the standard for dirty electricity. Any public building has to have levels less than 50 in it. So most of the building in North America wouldn't meet Kazakhstan standard. To download this presentation, go to MUMEcofair.org, then click on Speakers, Workshops, scroll down to Dirty Electricity, and it says Download Presentation here. So you can download these studies, look at them yourselves, and see if you come to the same conclusion and concern I do.